had a brief meeting of the Personnel Committee just prior to this from 9 to 9:05. And even though our minutes state us beginning this board meeting at 9 o'clock, we will begin the board meeting at 9:05, which is just about coming up here. So we'll get started here in just a second. Okay. Again, welcome to everyone. We've actually got a much larger turnout than I had thought during the approaching holidays, and also I want to extend my appreciation on behalf of the board to everyone who has made an effort to attend and participate this morning. We thank you for that. Wish everyone happy holidays here. Also, as I had mentioned earlier, we had a brief meeting of the Personnel Committee at 9 o'clock until 9:05 immediately preceding this. You'll be hearing more about that during this meeting for those who stay around for the entirety of the meeting. But we are now into the general board meeting for the Escambia Children's Trust, and we'll be calling that to order at 9:09 here. Would request, as I am doing with mine, that everyone silence your cell phones, if you would please, out of consideration for others. The first item on today's agenda is the call to order and then the roll call. Ms. Alma.
Good morning. Ms. Kane? Mr. Leonard? Here. Commissioner May? Dr. Northup?
Here.
Ms. White? Here. Mr. Williams?
Here.
I have Judge Williams as excused, and Ms. Woods. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The next item will be the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Williams, would you please? Thank you, Mr. Williams. The next item is approval of the agenda. I have a motion. It's been
I second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next will be approval of the minutes as submitted with noting the staff recommends the board approve the minutes. This is the October 14th regular board meeting, and those minutes were included in the packet. Does anyone have any additions, deletions, modifications, changes to those minutes as submitted? And hearing none, the minutes will stand as submitted for inclusion in our records. Next item will be the treasurer's report from Ms. Abrams.
Okay, thank you. In your packet, you have two different financial reports. One is from September 2025 and the other one from October. Since we did not have last month's meeting, we included them both here. The one from September is for the last month of last fiscal year, and October is for the first month of this fiscal year. So the percentages you're going to see in them are very different from each other. September is not completely closed yet. I am still processing some invoices from some providers who have been behind, and we're trying to get them caught up. So once that is done, I will prepare a closeout report for September that I give you in the board meeting. But at the end of September, we are running, on our expenses, we're running about 7.3% administrative, 2.4 in tax collector fees, and 90.3 in programmatic fees. That's just slightly off from our budget, which was 91.3 in programmatic. I think we will meet that once we have all of the programs processed and paid out. We did receive slightly more revenue than we anticipated on our taxes. We budgeted for collecting of 95% of the taxes. We actually collected 96, so we received $11,988,000 versus $11,933,000 we had budgeted for. And we received slightly more in interest. We had budgeted for $1 million in interest, and we got $1,047,000. So we ended up with 102% of our revenue for the year. So our administrative, we ran good. We're at 5%, almost 6% for administrative for the year. And we expended 90% of our administrative budget. On our programs, we have expended 83% of what we budgeted for programs. Again, when I update that, that will go up higher, but we will not expend everything. Some of the programs did give money back at the end of September. If we look down at our contract schedule for September, you're going to see that as of September 30th, we have a balance of $8.6 million left on awarded contracts and $17.8 million left in funding requested by current providers. And of that amount, all of that would be covered by cash on hand right now. We're obligating that out of current cash on hand. So I'm not going to spend much time on our balance sheet for September. Our biggest liability on there was accounts payable of $780,000. As one of my closeout entries for the year, I will be recording a liability to the City of Pensacola for the CRA. Until that is resolved, that will be recorded as a liability. Okay. Statement of revenue and expenses. The first one shows that just a total as the agency. And it showed that we had extra income this year of $3.195 over our earnings. Our earnings over our expenses, so that money will be set aside to cover current contracts. And then the expanded general ledgers, there was nothing unusual or unexpected that occurred in September. Do you guys have any questions on September before I move into October? Okay. So then October is only for 1 month of the year. That's our first month of the year. So we've only covered 8% of the year. So we had a net loss in the month of October. We have not gotten paid any tax money in October yet, so we were using money that we'd already earned for the prior years. Largest liability was $532,000 for our accounts payable. Then if we go down into our budget, we budgeted for this year 6.15 in administrative and 2.4 tax collector and 91.4 to be used in program. We are running very different than that right now currently. With only 1 month in, we're running at 22.7 in administrative, 28.7 in tax collector, and 48.5 in program. That is because we've only had 5 programs at this, when I process these, we only had 5 programs that had been paid for October services. And we have over 40 programs, so that will change as those programs are paid. We are right now at 10%. We have spent 10% of our administrative budget with 90% left. We have tax payments to the tax collector that get paid quarterly, and the first one was paid in October. So that puts us at a higher rate for the first quarter. And I do have an error when I put in their ECT budget. I missed a comma in the expenses, so I will fix that. We have currently spent 1% of our program budget, and we've only paid out $48,000 in community providers this year. So general ledger again showed nothing unusual. We have, as of October 31st, a balance of $9.79 million left on awarded contracts and $16.45 in funding requested, and that is currently will be obligated out of current cash on hand. As of the end of October, programs that were awarded money surrendered $5.9 million that they did not spend by the end of their contract date. So we currently have, out of our cash in hand, we currently have 1.2 million in unobligated funds. So currently, out of our cash on hand, 94% is obligated and 6% is unobligated for unexpected, anticipated needs. So there was nothing unusual in October. Do you guys have any questions on October? Okay.
Any questions from the board regarding either the September or October financials? Okay. The Finance and Operations Committee has recommended approval of both the September and October financial reports. Have a motion for that? Okay, the motion has been made by Ms. Woods. Second? Seconded by Ms. White. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you for that, Ms. Abrams. And again, just to re-emphasize, as you read through that, which I did and initially was read the September report and noted how things looked very good at the end of the year in that preliminary end-of-year fiscal report in regard to the relatively small amount spent for administrative by the board versus a little over 90% going to programs themselves. And then I got into the October report, not thinking new fiscal year, and all of a sudden we were down to 48% of funding going to programs, and thought that's terrible. And that looks that way because, again, as Ms. Abrams pointed out, that is a new fiscal year. As we get into it and begin paying the program providers, that percentage is going to come into alignment with the budgeted amounts with that. And so thank you for pointing that out for those of us who need things like that pointed out to us. So thank you, Ms. Abrams. Public comments, do we have any? I hear none. The next thing that we get to, and this reflects back to the Personnel Committee meeting that we had at 9 a.m. here this morning, and that has to do with the Executive Director's contract renewal. and we come back to Ms. Abrams as well as to our legal counsel potentially for discussion of that item.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to know that the Personnel Committee did meet and is recommending approval of the renewal for the Executive Director contract. And here I'll turn it over to our legal team.
Good morning. Yes, in accordance with the policy manual for ECT, we did compile and prepare a performance report that's before the board. Each of you participated in providing a performance evaluation. There was nothing of note that needed to be addressed by the Personnel Committee. In fact, Ms. Cannon continues to receive glowing remarks from the board. And so at this time, with the performance report being in front of you, the board can entertain a motion for contract extension.
I will entertain a motion to approve the report and to renew the contract as was proposed by the Personnel Committee. Ms. Wood has made that motion, or excuse me, Ms. White has made that motion. I'm getting mixed up here. Second, and has been seconded by Mr. Williams. Any discussion or comments? The report has been put in front of us. One of the things I will note, reflecting what I consider to be a stellar performance, having one vote on the board, is that her low out of 5 points, her low, let me back up a little for those of you in the audience here to understand. Each of us as board members were asked to compile an evaluation of Ms. Cannon and her job performance. And so what this rather thick packet represents is a compilation of the 10 of our votes and evaluations of Ms. Cannon. And as I'm flipping through there very briefly, this has been compiled by the attorneys and put into a very nice packet here in spite of technical difficulties. And it looked at, what did it look at here? 8 or 10 different, 6, 7 different performance evaluations for Ms. Cannon, and her low score out of a total compiled score of 5, the lowest that she got was a composite total of 4.7, many of them being 5 out of 5. And I think that reflects very favorably on the board's, the total board's assessment of Ms. Cannon's job performance, and would like to congratulate her and express our appreciation to her for that job performance. And that job performance is reflected back out to you all as providers, and mostly to the children who are receiving your services and for which this trust exists. And I think personally that we are all very fortunate that Ms. Cannon is leading this organization, and we'll, after biasing things, we'll open this up for other comments from board members, other than what is expressed in the comments here. Any others? Okay. With that in mind, the motion to approve this packet has been made and seconded by Ms. White and Mr. Williams. Discussion has been placed. All in favor of approving the evaluation and renewing her contract, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous, passes. And again, thank you very much, Ms. Cannon, for your leadership in this organization. Okay, the next item, speaking of Ms. Cannon, comes to her, which is Pensacola Little Theater contract resignation status.
Yes, thank you. You know, we had been working with Pensacola Little Theater. They've clearly had a shift in leadership at their organization at a variety of levels. And so They have decided to withdraw their year 3 OST contract moving forward, just did not feel like they could perform not in the way that they had promised and put out. They do not have some of those key players with them anymore that were really guiding this process. So I think they're going back through their strategic process and want to just step away and reform as an organization. So you'll have a letter here from Kathy, who is their interim executive director, resigning their contract moving forward. So those funds will be put back into circulation for future funding.
Okay, thank you for that bit of information and explanation there. The next item is programs, a budget amendment by the Pensacola Children's Chorus. And again, this is contained within our packet.
Yes, so we were able to go through this at our program committee, but it is a proposal for a unique opportunity for the children that we serve that are participating in Pensacola Children's Chorus. They have been, as an organization, selected to perform at Carnegie Hall. And it's just a unique opportunity for our children to go. It is a fairly expensive trip, and we know that, that they would not be able to participate. Otherwise, there is a very thorough proposal in your packet put together by Alex Gartner. I know that he is also here as well. If there are any additional questions, the Personnel Committee voted to move this forward in a positive fashion to renegotiate the budget within the dollars that they already had, so we're not increasing anything, but really looking strategically at what they were spending and reallocating dollars to that travel package for those youth that do qualify to go.
Is this a point of information because there is no request for additional funding and/or will you need a motion and approval of the board for that?
We would need a motion and approval for a budget amendment. This is above the threshold that Tammy and I are able to
Okay.
approve.
There are a number of us who have had an opportunity to see this previously, and the packet is very informative as well. So motion to approve the budget modification.
So moved.
Okay, second? Okay, seconded. Any further discussion on this request? Other than what an amazing opportunity for these children. And there are, for those of you all who don't have the packet, there are some pictures here of Carnegie Hall and a prior group attending and participating in that. And this is just one of the highlights, I would think, of this trust in getting some of these children. I've never even been to Carnegie Hall, much less performing there. So that is really a unique opportunity. I think speaks well of this organization, speaks well of the city that we are supportive, and the county of this type of activity for our youth, and bodes well for all involved. So, okay, it's been motioned and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So that carries.
Chair, I just want to make, I'm going to do a little plug for Christmas on the Coast is this weekend too, so you can go see some of our kids that we help support the 3 performances at the Sanger this weekend as well. So, and Mr. Gartner's back there, so just a little plug.
Thank you.
Just when they're done.
Yes.
Just when, not on this, just when you've completed voting. I'm going to go back to something.
All good. Okay, thank you. Now we're up to an item that has previously appeared on the agenda here and has gone for further discussion and evaluation via the program committee, excuse me, who has met. This has to do with the mental health year 3 renewals. Ms. Cannon? Or Megan?
So
or both?
we have had multiple meetings regarding the mental health year 3 renewals and clarifications on budget requests. The last three that were not approved at the prior board meeting and went back through program committee are Lamplighters Academic and Mentoring Program, which is the Pride Program, New World Believers Hoops, and then Twin Oaks Juvenile Development, also known as Escambia Connects. The program committee did vote favorably to move forward with these three year 3 contracts. We also had done an extension for these three as well. So when you look at the parameters related to the dates, it would be from the time that we approved, which would have been the 19th, so moving forward from that.
Whoops. Motion to approve those as the program committee has recommended.
So moved.
A second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Discussion or further discussion regarding this recommendation.
Can we approve each one individually, please?
Okay, request that we approve each one individually, with the three being the Lamplighter Program, New World Believers, and Twin Oaks. Is that acceptable to the motion? Ms. White is,
Yes, we can amend that motion.
okay, so that we would move, okay, so then the first one of the three will be the Lamplighter Academic Mentoring, or excuse me, Academic and Mentoring Program for $249,642. Discussion on that one? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay, and Mr. Williams has abstained as being involved with that organization. Otherwise, all opposed or any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, Ms. Wood has indicated opposition to it. So the motion carries with 4 votes in favor, 1 abstention, and 1 opposed. Okay. The next one is the New World Believers Hoops Program for $585,685. All in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any opposed? Okay, that one passes unanimously. Twin Oaks Juvenile Development for $1,125,877. All in favor of approving that one? Aye. Any opposed? Oop, okay. No, none opposed. So that one passes unanimously as well. So all three of those will be approved. Okay, the next item then will be year 2 renewal for the United Way Healthy Schools Escambia. Ms. Cannon.
As you all know, this is one of our newest and largest collaboratives that we have in our community, serving 4 schools currently, which would be O.J. Sims, Global Learning Academy, Brentwood, and then also Navy Point Elementary Schools, or sorry, West Pensacola, not Navy Point. Navy Point does ask for help regularly, so we probably need to talk to you about that. But those 4 schools currently, we onboarded 2 during the middle of the first year, which would have been around that January timeframe. So there was a planning and a scale up part for O.J. Sims and GLA. And then throughout the summer, recognizing definitely needed a point person for the new 2 schools that were going to be brought on. They were able to increase their team and get going at the beginning of the year with the other 2 schools. So we're excited. There is in the packet a variety of different information related to their accomplishments in a short period of time. What's really remarkable is that there are 10 partners engaged in this initiative, and their ability to be able to collaborate and work together has been awesome to watch. They also will be looking at scaling up. So when you look at the report, you may have questions about what this looks like, during that school year for 6 months versus what it would look like for a full year in operation. And I think throughout this next school year, as that ends, you'll be able to see the full breadth of what's happened at GLA, full breadth of what's happened at Sims for basically like a year and a half, if you will. And then you'll be able to see a full year of the other two schools, West Pensacola and Brentwood Elementary. So there was a favorable recommendation to move forward with a year 2 renewal for United Way West Florida and the Healthy Schools Initiative.
Thank you for that report. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
All right, was so moved and seconded. Any further discussion, any comments from our school board representatives in regards to this particular program?
To Ms. Gilliam and everybody at United Way, thank you for working through all the yes, ma'am. You want me to talk a little louder? To Ms. Gilliam and the United Way of Northwest Florida, thank you for everything that you and your team have done, along with those other 10 partners. In the school district, there's a lot of moving parts, and each day those parts go a lot of different directions. This is one partnership where everything is pointed in the same direction, and we see academic improvement for those students, and also those soft skills that are so important to the families that are at those schools. We are very, very fortunate to have the Children's Trust here in our county help us accomplish the many, many goals that we have for our students and our families. So thank you very, very much. Obviously, I'll be voting yes.
Well, thank you for those kind words and that insight that you're sharing with us, Mr. Leonard. Appreciate that. Any other comments? All in favor of approval of this for the executive director to enter into an agreement with United Way for year 2 funding of the Escambia Healthy Schools program? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, the next item up for discussion is year 2 renewal for the National Flight Academy. And again, Ms. Cannon, the program committee has recommended approval of this as well.
Yes, the National Flight Academy, of course, was a sole source from last year that's been added in another collaboration with the school district. It's been really amazing. I know our team's been out. They actually live stream also the graduation on their Facebook page, which is so cool to be able to see our kids going through that. I actually did get some feedback. The last school to go was Pine Forest High School, and I heard those kids were flexing in the hallways, really excited and about that unique opportunity. So we know that a lot of those children would not be able to participate and are also faced with looking at career challenges potentially moving forward. So to be able to offer this not only at the middle school level to engage our students, but also really looking at that high school group that's going to be out in our workforce and hopefully engaging them has been a wonderful partnership with the National Flight Academy. Pat Everly is here, the one that runs that. So if you guys, I know he's coming down a presentation for you all, but if there's any additional questions you'd like to know, he is here to answer. And also, the committee did vote to move forward with a year 2 contract.
All right. I see we have our friend here from National Flight Academy. First, I'll ask for a motion to approve as recommended. Ms. Wood has made the motion. Second?
Second. Ms. White.
To you both, Ms. White, Ms. Wood. Ms. White made the motion, Ms. Wood seconded. Again, my apologies. Now, having a motion and having it seconded, any further discussion, questions? I will comment that we also had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Curtis, affiliated with their program recently, and a very impressive organization, operation with things taking place out there with the Flight Academy and programs with that. So all in favor of approving the second year funding, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Carries unanimously, so thank you for that. No, please, wonderful to see that and that work continuing and kids getting excited about, I keep seeing STEM and STEAM, and what was another one I saw recently, but anyway, excited kids are good. All right. Now, the last item for discussion here under this program issue is the CAPSI Head Start, and then the Early Steps Healthy Start match request with, again, a recommendation from the program committee for approval with further discussion from Ms. Cannon here. And again, this
Sure,
packet is in our packet.
We have a unique opportunity to address some significant challenges within our community through our Head Start, Early Head Start partnership. I think a lot of us know that the contract was reduced, and a lot of it has to do with being able to staff certain centers, pay people appropriately for their expertise, which led to some reduction in slots. When we don't have staff to serve kids, this is what happens with federal contracts. They start to reduce what your capacity is. We have met with Community Action and their executive director, Doug Brown, to really talk about not only the exorbitant match that they have, which is, I think, around $2.4 million, and that needs to come from a local source, but also really looking at retention opportunities and enhancing some of those supports to the staff. Along with the cut in some of those centers that had to close, there was also going to be a demand to reduce hours for our staff that are in the Early Head Start and Head Start space from 40 hours to 37 hours. And we cannot do that to our families, our working families. I think we have an obligation. We have a team there that's ready to meet that and ensure that our families can get their full 40 hours worth of work a week and that their children are taken care of. So they're asking for 1 year worth of match to really look at doing some bridge funding, not only for those hours that would have been cut for center operations, but also enhancing staff support, whether that be meeting some of those demands from the feds related to the cost for staffing, but as well as making sure that we're trying to stabilize and get them to their certification point. So Head Start is highly regulated. It is an evidence-based body of work. We're fortunate to have it here. I've written one of these grants, and it was probably one of the absolute hardest ones that I have ever done in my entire life, and we didn't get it, so that made it even worse. But I will tell you, to have it here and to have a collaborative partner that really wants to see what this looks like for kindergarten readiness when we can be fully staffed with qualified teachers, I think is a step in the right direction. So the committee did approve to move forward. It is a large ask. It's $1.1 million. We do have sufficient funds to honor that request for the year.
Thank you, Ms. Cannon. Requesting a motion to approve as recommended by the program committee. Okay,
Second.
and second.
White, not wood.
Okay. Any further discussion, questions?
Yes, I'll be abstaining because I'm on the board of Community Action.
Okay. So there will be one abstain. Okay. Any further comments or questions, clarifications? Okay. All in favor of approving this one-year funding request for Community Action Program Head Start? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Again, passes unanimously as submitted. And wish them well with that and appreciate their services and all as well. Preparation. Now, the next item we move to, kind of changing gears here a little bit, is our legal report from Ms. Fry.
Yes.
And
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to first ask the board to return to one item, which is the Pensacola Little Theater contract resignation. Your program committee did vote to accept that resignation, so I'd like to see a full board motion to accept that program committee recommendation to accept the resignation of PLT.
okay. Moved and seconded. Question again, this is a motion to accept the resignation. So any questions, comments, abstentions, otherwise, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so that carries unanimously.
All right, thank you. The next item on the legal report, of course, is the current ECT request for exemption pending with the city of Pensacola with respect to TIF tax incremental revenue for the 21 through 24 tax year. As you know, that request for exemption was made back in the summer. Of course, now with passage of time, 2025 has now, I shouldn't say come due because it has not been formally assessed or requested by the city. However, of course, it is generally due in October. So we recently supplemented the request for exemption to include the 2025 tax year as well. Setting aside, each party's legal position, the city's position, and the trust position, I will share with you that the exemption request made was for a complete and total exemption, unlike, when we were negotiating with the county, and ultimately the board entered into an interlocal agreement with the county, under which payments were being made and are being made by the board, by ECT to the county. The city request has always been viewed a little differently for two reasons by this board. One is the total amount of funding that's being spent within the city limits and the CRA, which is a little under $10 million for children's services being provided. And secondly, because of the direct grant relationship between the Children's Trust and the city of Pensacola. Recall that the City of Pensacola Parks and Rec Department is a recipient of ECT funds to the tune of about $1.7 million. And so it's been the position that the board, of this board, that a total exemption should be granted by the city in which, no funds and no payments would be made to the city, or at the very least, some sort of set-off analysis should be undertaken so that the city understands that any amounts paid to it under an interlocal agreement would be set off by what's already being paid to the city as a grant recipient. The city attorney and I have had a couple of conversations as follow-up. He did prepare a proposed interlocal agreement. That interlocal agreement, I'd call it very preliminary because it initially requests that the trust pay the total amount due for each year. It did waive the interest and fees that were initially demanded. I shared with the city attorney that, of course, the analysis for the city is a little bit different than the county and that we needed to have an additional conversation because clearly our request for a complete exemption was not fully appreciated by the city. And so in response, we have been invited, when I say we, myself and Ms. Cannon have been invited to sit down with Mayor Reeves and the city attorney next week. I just received that as we sat down here this morning, so we'll make sure that's scheduled. Ms. Cannon and I are hopeful that that conversation will result in some movement on this exemption request. If not the complete exemption that's been requested, certainly some movement on a more acceptable interlocal agreement so that kids can be continued to serve, of course, within the city limits and CRA districts. So that's my report at this time. As you know, initially, when we made the exemption request, there is a 120-day requirement that the city place that request on council's agenda. Of course, because of the passage of time, 2025 came due, so we will not be on council agenda for December. However, I think this conversation in advance of any presentation to council is a good development and one in which certainly, hopefully, we'll go into that exemption request hearing with a little more information and understanding of both sides' positions. So with that, any questions?
No, I just would like to say thank you for fighting for our kids and, doing the right thing for what we have decided for as the trust.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
I would very much echo those thoughts, and I know these discussions have not always been as cordial and, in my words, respectful as we might like, which I find disappointing that has been the case. But anyway, be that as it may, as Ms. Wood and other members of the board have mentioned, that the city has been the recipient, and the children within the city, most importantly, have been recipients of funding through the Parks and Recreation Program and some other programs that do impact the well-being of children within the city of Pensacola. I think that is both commendable and needs to be hopefully recognized on the part of the city as we continue this civil discourse with them. And that in fairness, however, to the children throughout Escambia County, I think this board has a responsibility of trying to look at some equitability in funding, and that the monies that the city wants, whether they call it CRA dollars or they call it funding for out-of-school time programs or whatever it is, one, it needs to benefit kids. Two, it needs to be, I think, some degree of equitability, again, looking at all of the requests for funding that we receive. And I would hope that those discussions would, again, take place in a mutually respectful manner, in a manner that recognizes the responsibility that the board has, as well as the needs and wants of children throughout the entire county, inclusive of the city, certainly. But thank you all for continuing those discussions on our behalf, and wish you well in the ongoing discussions next week and into the future. This is something I think the board would like to see on behalf of the citizens in the county again, in regards to the fact that we have kept rather significant amount of funds sequestered, held back, whatever term is used, trying to anticipate responsibly what is going to be the final resolution of this, and ensuring that whichever way this goes, that we have the funding available to meet those obligations. But the important point being that those are dollars that are currently sitting in a bank somewhere, rather than going towards the provision of services and programs for children, which is what was intended for those funds to be used for. So with all that said and done, carry on. So any further comments? Thank you for that report and your efforts and your work, to you and Sally both. Any further comments from the board? And if not, we will stand adjourned at 9:52. So thank you all. And again, happy holidays to everyone.